right, everybody, welcome to GOI Radio Part 2. You got myself and John here today. And, I don't have the voice from the gods like Rob does, but I am like a cross-eyed discus thrower in that I don't really win any records, but I do keep the crowd alert. So we're going to talk a little bit more today about restarting the league. Some of the things we need to look out for in the league. We're going to play a little game called Second Chances, which we'll describe a little bit more when we get to it. And that should be the show today. So on with me today is the co-founder, the godfather of GOI, Mr. John Wilson.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here. Glad to be back. So it was a rough month for everybody, especially the league. So, all right. Well, I think everybody's pretty excited to be back. It seems like I noticed, almost all the games are already scheduled. They're in process, so people are ready to go. So I think we're about to kick off a pretty exciting season if the EA gods stay with us.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously a huge shout out to you and Connor. The trade committee got involved there. Jay, Peter, Ray for a little bit there, putting all the rosters back together, piecing it back together where we hopefully left off in week 2. I know Kobe's already trying to say his quarterback had 93 speed, and we appreciate that. We actually looked at, he's got 78 speed, so we'll make that adjustment, Kobe, and we'll see how you do this year against Ray there with the Saints. So what do you want to mention a little bit about starting back? What things should we kind of look out for or do in our games and after our games?
Well, as we put in the announcement, I think the biggest thing is just trying to exit out properly from the games, taking it back. I guess there's been some tidbits from some other leagues, so there is hope, because there's leagues that are actually in their second season right now. So the main thing is exit out properly. If you don't get out and you don't see a score, they ask both teams to go back into the game summary, and that seems to fix it most of the time. In cases it doesn't, and once you do that, that helps out a little bit as well. When you come back, it seems to be between those two fixes, it solves the vast majority. And if that doesn't work, well, then hell, we love playing football, so just run it again.
Yeah, and hopefully EA actually makes that same patch they did last year that applies to existing franchises and not kind of gets this one by surprise in that, hey, everybody's got to reboot again. But, again, huge shout out to the roster creators again. They made actually a savable file, so hopefully it does make it a little bit easier to reboot if we have to. Going into this thing. Okay, so we're going to play a game called Second Chances, and that's basically we looked at everybody who lost or played in week 1 on our first attempt with GOI when we kicked off the franchise, and we're trying to pick 3 teams that ended up losing that we think are going to end up winning this go around in the reboot.
No, see, I'm bad at the that pick 2, but okay. So. Well, the first I'm going to take the easy route, right? Because the easy route is in the first rendition, we had the Eagles go against the Lions, and the Eagles had a pretty resounding win. However, we've pulled out the wild card because the Lions are now run by the other Phil 2.0, Junior Phil. I'm not sure which Phil he would be, but not you, Phil. And what I do know about that Phil, although I got to tell you, this is a little bit of a stretch because I actually beat him in a scrimmage game. And I came back from 27 down to lose by 3 the last time we played. So Phil's going to have to do some homework, but I know he's trying. He's been one of our most active users during the break. But he has a 65% winning percentage in his history. I went back and looked at the records, and he's made it to the playoffs 5 playoff games, which is one of the heavier ones for that time. So he can play. So we know he's a baller. So I don't think it's going to be quite as easy of a walk for the Eagles this go around. So they better not take it for granted, because I think Phil's going to give them all they can handle in offense. I can tell you that much. So he can hang 50 easy.
I agree. I have that game as well picked. wasn't my first overall pick, but it definitely was on the board there. So Jacob won round 1, 48-14 when he played the Lions. But again, that wasn't Phil, so we can't really hold that against him. I have it scored 27-24 Lions. Other Phil, I think is good. Wins at 27-24 at home to open up with the Lions 1-0.
Nice. You know, I think that's a great. I'd go the over on that game. I think that, like I said, every time I played Phil, he is all about that offense. So he's definitely going to probably put some points on the board, I think.
Yeah,
So,
Jacob does too. So I got to hand them both. So, hey, it could be 48-45. I don't know. I'm just saying
whoever has
Lions by 3 is my pick there.
right. Absolutely.
I'll go round 2. I got Broncos at Eagles. Round 1 was Alex winning over Greg 34-21. I played Greg in the first tournament we did, preseason tournament, and got whacked by him there on a final drive, as Madden seems to love to do to me. But I think knowing Greg and playing Greg, and knowing Alex, it's 2 really, really good users, and I got it scored 35-28. Broncos go on the road to Seattle and get the victory.
That would be a tough divisional game too. So I could and in that case, it's the opposite of the first game, because now these guys have played each other, so they know each other.
Yeah.
So I want to bet you Greg's been thinking about that game for a hot second. So he's probably figured out some things he wants to do there. So
yeah, out of the 2 of them, I think Greg, sells his mom down the street to win a game. I don't think Matt would do that, but I think Greg would. And
yeah, we know he'd sell his brother down the street. That's for sure.
That is the truth. What other game do you have?
The other one, and this one's a tough one, because in the first go around, the Packers came on top of the Vikings, and in fact, in that one, if you might have the score, I don't have it off the top of my head, but I think it was a pretty resounding beating, which is unusual for John.
I want to say it was 41-17.
Something like that sounds right.
Packers, yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, Connor is my most. You got to figure it out. He really does. I'm trying to figure out defense. He's all over it. Offense, he seems. If there's a trick play in Madden, Connor's got it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how he picks his playbook. He finds the one that has the most trick plays. So you're going to have tight ends coming out of the backfield. You're going to have reverses. You're going to have anything, whatever it's out there, he's going to have it. And it works for him. But John's been a tough player for a long time. He's got the Skull pride. He represents his hometown. I don't think he's going to take a beating again from Connor. So I think he's going to, I can't say he's going to upset him, but I think he's going to give him a run for his money. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Yeah, I agree. At the very least, I think John makes it competitive. I actually didn't have that matchup written down. I don't. Connor's been a very tough player for a long, long time. John's coming off the NFC North last edition, so he's kind of got this hard game ingrained to him. But yeah, like you said, Connor, I don't like to pick against him. He just seems to have everybody's number except for maybe me and Ray, and so it wasn't one I had written down.
No, but and it's another tough divisional game too, right off the bat. So
yeah, it'll be a fun one. I agree. It's definitely one I'm watching for sure. The last game I had written down was the 49ers, Darnell, and he played the Bears. He won 30-28. Darnell did on the road. Denzel, like you were mentioning about the other Phil, about the win percentage, I think Denzel is over 70% win percentage range. So that was one that stood out to me. I think Darnell's off to a great start. He's got a great team. The San Francisco 49ers are kind of stacked out of the box, out of the gate for Madden. But I got Bears winning 31-24.
That's a great pick too. I guess if I didn't do my homework properly, I only had 2 teams, but that probably would have been the 3rd team for sure. Just because, like you said, Denzel's reputation. Darnell is everything I want to be. I mean, he wasn't so hot, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, through the preseason, through the tournaments, he's been on fire. So I'm super happy for him. He's one of those guys that takes an L with as much class as anybody in the league does. And so I'm happy for him. Hope he does well. Hope he proves you wrong. But like you said, Denzel, early on, straightforward when he joined the league, kind of identified himself as one of the league's elite. He's there's probably only a handful of guys we think can put an L on Ray. Maybe when he's sick and distracted and his new house is falling in on him, we might be able to get a win out of him or a loss out of him. But Denzel is definitely in that class of guys that I think could do it. So that will be a tough match. And, not to put any pressure on Darnell, but to beat Denzel twice, that means he's arrived. So he'll put the league on notice. But it's gonna be a tough matchup.
Yeah, and that's not to pick against Darnell or anything like that. I love Darnell, and I love his personality and his drive, and he plays almost every game, and anytime somebody else wants to play, he seems like he's available. So I'm not picking against Darnell. I'd love to see it again. I just was going with the matchups there. Did you have another one at all?
Well, no, not off the top of my head, but I do have a question. Darnell was brought in by Tommy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So obviously getting Tommy out of California has really helped Darnell. It must have been a big distraction. So
that's a good point. That's a good observation.
And now talking that with Kobe, so go figure.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll end today's show with that, and we'll look to kick it off, hopefully next week, and keep this thing as a weekly thing coming.
Absolutely. All right. Well, good seeing you. Good luck to everybody in the league this year. Kick some butt, and make sure you exit the games properly. And let's hope we don't blow up.